In the bustling city of Ibadan, amidst the echoes of war drums and bustling markets, lived a woman whose name would strike both admiration and fear in the hearts of many. Her name was Efunsetan Aniwura. She wasn't just any woman. She was like a queen who everyone admired and feared. She had a magical way of making people listen to her, and her house was full of treasures and people who worked for her. Born in the early 1800s into a wealthy family in Abeokuta, she could have lived a life of comfort and ease, but destiny had other plans. Her story is one of power, ambition, loss, and betrayal, and it all begins with her relentless rise to the top of one of the most powerful cities in Yorubaland. From a young age, Efunsetan showed that she was different. Whilst other girls in Abeokuta were learning domestic duties, Efunsetan had her eyes set on something far bigger. When she was a little girl, she lived with her family in a beautiful house. She was the daughter of a prominent trader, and under her father's watchful eye, she learned the ins and outs of the family business. Efunsetan was not content with being in the background. She wanted to be at the forefront of trade, deals, and negotiations. Efunsetan loved learning and helping her father in the market. From a young age, Efunsetan learned the secret of trading from her father. She was very smart and loved working in the market, where she quickly became very good at her job. When she married and moved to Ibadan, the largest city-state in the region, Efunsetan's ambition grew even larger. Ibadan was a city built on power, strength, and wealth. It was a home to great warriors and ruthless traders, and Efunsetan was determined to make her mark. She wasted no time establishing herself as a formidable trader. Guns, slaves, tobacco, palm oil, she dealt in it all. It wasn't long before she was known across the city as one of the wealthiest, most successful business people, and perhaps, even more strikingly, a woman who had no equal. Her reputation was fierce, not just because of her wealth, but because of how she ran her empire. Efunsetan ruled her household and business operation with an iron fist. She had hundreds of slaves and workers who toiled under her leadership, and she demanded absolute loyalty and efficiency. Any disobedience or failure to meet a standard was met with harsh punishment. Her cruelty became legendary. Whispers traveled through the city like wildfire, telling stories of Efunsetan's unforgiving nature. Some even called her a tyrant. But in the cutthroat world of Ibadan's high-stakes trade, where the weak were crushed, this was the price of survival. But why was she so unforgiving? Why was she so driven by discipline? The answer lay in the deepest tragedy of her life. Efunsetan Aniwura had a daughter, the pride and joy of her heart. But the child tragically died young, leaving Efunsetan shattered. She had hoped to raise her daughter to be as powerful and independent as she was, but that dream was snatched away. The pain hardened her, and she poured all of her grief into her business. She could no longer be a mother, but she could be a leader, a force to be reckoned with. Her heart closed, and her focus turned to power. In Ibadan, Efunsetan's name soon carried as much weight as any warrior's. Her influence was unmatched, and her business dealings brought her incredible wealth. Her power was so immense that she was named Iyalode, the highest title a woman could hold in the city. As Iyalode, Efunsetan became the voice of all women in Ibadan, representing their interest in the city's affairs. But this was no mere ceremonial role. In Ibadan, power was won through strength, and Efunsetan wielded hers like a weapon. Yet, the rise of Efunsetan Aniwura was not without its enemies. In a world where men controlled almost every aspect of politics and trade, Efunsetan's dominance was seen as a threat. Many men envied her power, whispering in the dark about how a woman would rise so high. Warriors who were used to settling disputes with swords and spears now found themselves negotiating with Efunsetan over trade routes and resources. Some found her too strong, too fierce for their liking, and slowly but surely enemies began to circle. But Efunsetan was not the kind of woman to cower before threats. Her intelligence was matched by her foresight. She employed bodyguards, harmed her household, and ensured that her wealth was fiercely protected. For a time, no one dared challenge her, but it wasn't just external enemies that threatened her. As time passed, her strict leadership and relentless ambition began to alienate those close to her. Many of her workers and slaves grew fearful, and whispers of rebellion spread through her estates. They spoke of the woman who had once inspired them now becoming a tyrant. As tension brewed, Efunsetan's political rivals seized the moment. The men in power, growing more and more frustrated by her influence, began plotting her downfall. They accused her of trying to undermine the city's leadership, spreading rumors that she was planning to overthrow the chiefs. The whispers turned to outright accusation of treason. It was the perfect storm. Efunsetan's growing isolation, combined with the envy of the men in power, led to a plot to bring her down once and for all. The fall of Efunsetan Aniwura happened as swiftly as her rise. In 1874, the ruling council of Ibadan, made up of men who once feared her, turned against her. They accused her of conspiring to destabilize the city, claiming she had grown too powerful, too dangerous. They declared her guilty of treason. No evidence was presented. Our enemies had decided her fate long before the trial. With the city's most powerful men united against her, Efunsetan was stripped of her title, her wealth seized, and her supporters scattered. But the story did not end there. When our enemies moved to arrest her, Efunsetan did not go quietly. True to her nature, she resisted fiercely, barricading herself in her home. Her bodyguard stood by her side, but she was outnumbered. The warriors stormed her compound, and in the chaos that followed, Efunsetan's life came to a violent end. Some say she was killed in the fighting. Others say she took her own life, refusing to let her enemies claim the final victory. Whatever the truth, Efunsetan Aniwura died as she had lived, on her own terms. News of her death spread like wildfire across Ibadan. Many celebrated the fall of the woman they had called ruthless and cold-hearted. But others, particularly the women of Ibadan, mourned the loss of a leader who had defied the odds, who had proven that a woman could rise to the heights of power in a male-dominated world. Her legacy was complicated. She was both feared and admired, both a tyrant and a pioneer. Yet, even in death, her story did not fade away. Efunsetan Aniwura's life remains one of the most remarkable tales of ambition, power, and tragedy in the Nigerian history. She broke the rules of her time, rising to heights no woman had ever reached before. Her reign as Iyalode showed the strength and determination of women in a world dominated by men. But it also serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that with great power comes great risk, and the higher you rise, the harder you can fall. For the people of Ibadan, Efunsetan Aniwura is remembered as both a hero and a villain. To some, she was a woman who cared only for power, whose cruelty and ambition led her to destruction. To others, She was a visionary, a woman who shattered the limitation placed on her by society and proved that anything was possible. As though she met a tragic end, her name lives on as a symbol of what can be achieved when one dares to defy the odds. So the next time you walk through the bustling markets of Ibadan or hear the name of Efunsetan Aniwura, remember the woman behind the legend. Remember the warrior queen who ruled with strength, who defied her enemies, and whose legacy continues to inspire. Her story, thrilling and powerful, stands as a testament to what it means to be truly fearless in the face of adversity.